Terry Johnson is a singer, songwriter, producer, and member of the Flamingos. Terry Johnson wrote, "Lovers Never Say Goodbye." That's a classic, people. "Mi Amore at the Prom," "You, Me, and the Sea," and "Heavenly Angel." He did that for the Flamingos, but there's so much more. He was recruited by Smokey Robinson at Motown Records. Terry Johnson's Flamingos are getting ready to go out on tour in support of their Diamond Anniversary CD. In fact, I see they'll be at the Beverly Hills Hotel in September. That's pretty cool. Please welcome Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, by the way, twice, and we'll talk about that, my special guest on the Mark Berman Show, Terry Johnson. Terry, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so very much, Mark. I'm glad to be here to talk with you.
Okay, let's find out. How'd you get the name Buzzy?
Because I was always so busy as a little kid. I was just buzzing around, always doing things, and my mother just, Buzzy, that's a good name for Buzzy, stop it. So that was me.
You grew up in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And in your neighborhood, you grew up near Sonny Till and Earl Hurley.
Yeah.
Where did all this begin for you?
1950, when I really got into music, and I met Earl Hurley. I knew him, but Sonny Till, I knew him. But when I met him, it was an honor. And he lived down the street from me, and so did Earl Hurley. But J.R. Bailey with the Cadillacs also lived up the street from me.
Oh, man.
On the opposite side of the street.
Your first group, I believe, was the Whispers, not the Whispers that we know of from the West Coast.
Right.
This predated them. Is this where the career began with you?
Yes, it was. As far as recording, and it was my first successful vocal group. I had sang with a few other guys, but this was a special group. We had a magic about us. And that happened in 1953, I believe. And we recorded. And we went to Gotham Records in Philadelphia, which, is very close to where you guys are now. I love Philadelphia, by the way. I love the Gita. I love everybody. Georgie Wood that brings us on the shows. But, okay, we went to Philadelphia, recorded 4 sides, Are You Sorry, We're Getting Married, Full Heart in Love, and Don't Mess with Lizzie.
Yeah.
And they did, it did pretty good for us. And then I waited for something big to happen, and the Flamingos came into town at the Royal Theater in Baltimore. Because we all belonged to the same church. I went down to see them, and sitting in the audience, I looked up on the stage. I admired the Five Keys. They were also on the show.
Oh.
But then when the Flamingos came there, man, there was like a halo around, a glow about them. And I saw me not in that seat, but on stage with them playing my guitar. And I said, whoa, it scared me. I went backstage and told them what I saw, and they said, that's pretty strange. That's pretty weird. Then Nick Nelson asked me if I knew they were looking for somebody else because Johnny had just got drafted into the service. Yeah. And they said if I knew anybody who could sing first tenor like Johnny Carter, and if they could play an instrument. I said, well, I can do all that. That's what I do. I went in and auditioned for them, and I waited a few months, got the call. Are you ready to be a Flamingo? Yes.
Wow.
And went to Philadelphia where Jake Carey was living, and we went from there on up to New York, where I made my home up there for quite a few years.
Now, the Flamingos struck gold. I mean gold. The gold lasts today with Only Have Eyes for You. Okay.
Yep.
But that song was written in 1934, but it was your brilliance that came up with the arrangement. How did you do that?
First of all, I'm going to give my credit to God. And how I did it is I had 33 songs that George Goldner had given me. He's the president of Gone Records. And I came up with 32 right up, bop, 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 very easy for me. But when it came to I Only Have Eyes for You, I didn't like the chord changes. It sounded like, are the stars out tonight? It had that old sound. And I wanted to do something different with it. And George Goldner asked me, he said, put a spin on these songs, make them different. He said, let's see if you can really do what you say you can do or what everybody say you can do. And so I didn't want to just come up with anything. So I had a bad habit of practicing my guitar laying in my bed. I had the guitar on my chest. I fell asleep, and I heard the song in my head. I heard, Georgia. Like I heard my voice, over everything. And I heard the chord structure. I heard the way it started. I heard the bridge. Ah, ah. I mean, I heard, and it was frightening to me, but beautiful at the same time, because it was like I heard it so clear. When I woke up, my hands were like, I know it was God because my hands was right where the chords were. And I just seemed to know where it was. And it was like, wow, this is, and I called the guys at 4 o'clock in the morning and said, come to my room now, I got the song. So you crazy, it's 4 o'clock? I said, I don't care. That's my job. Come on. They came and I showed them the parts. They thought I was crazy. They didn't like it. They thought it was weird. And, had to do it because it was the only way I heard I Only Have Eyes for You. We went in the studio. George thought it was strange. He said, it doesn't sound like 50s music. Terry, what are you doing? But before we knew it, Good Night Sweetheart was supposed to be the release. Yeah. But on the album, the DJs listened to the album and heard I Only Have Eyes for You. Said, oh man, this is beautiful. They played it and started calling around, different cities, their friends, and it spread like wildfire. And before I knew it, the song was climbing up the charts. It was the biggest song we've ever recorded. But I give the credit to God.
But in 2003, you were honored by the National Association of Recording Arts and Sciences, NARAS, and I Only Have Eyes for You was inducted into the Grammy Award Hall of Fame. That had to be a shining moment, was it for you in your life?
Yes, it was.
Now, you made 5 appearances on Bandstand. Were these at the studios at 45th and Market in Philadelphia? Were you on the Philly Bandstand? Is that when you were there?
You better know it. Yes,
oh,
indeed.
Boy. That's Bandstand. But now let's talk about this, because you recorded in Philly. Baltimore's just a couple miles down the highway. Right. You know what I mean? Okay. I'm from Philly.
All right.
Okay, I spent my entire life there. So I want to talk about a couple things.
Okay.
On the show today, I also interviewed a gentleman who is a radio legend, not only in Philadelphia, but he's on our sister station, 98.3, down here, Cool 98.3. And I'm talking about the Geeter, Jerry Blavitt. Where did you meet the Geeter with the heater?
I love Jerry Blavitt. I knew him back in the day, man, when we were in Philly. I knew Jerry, and he's always been a very special person to me. I respect him very highly. I think he's one of the best out there because he's been around for so long doing his thing. And I can't remember the exact year, you know what I'm saying? But I do remember Geeter with the heater.
How about Georgie Woods and Jimmy Bishop? Do you remember those guys?
Oh, Jimmy Bishop, yes, of course I do. Yes, I do.
And I have to hit you with one more. How about High Lit?
Oh, man, yeah. Well, I haven't remembered that name in a long time.
Can you give me some of your Atlantic City memories?
Oh, man, such great memories. I can remember after we did a bandstand thing, and we had a job at the, I think it was a beachcomber in Atlantic City, and Chubby Checker, he was working across the street, Dick Clark came down, and he and Chuck Berry and Frankie Avalon, and I remember we went over to Dick Clark's suite, and we were all having such a good time, and
wow,
that was a good memory. And on that show, at Outflow at the Beachcomber, was also the Treniers. We were working opposite them. We were rocking that place out, I'm telling you.
Treniers were legendary here in Atlantic City at resorts in the Rendezvous Lounge, as was Sam Butera.
Right. Exactly.
How did you end up at Motown Records? That was Smokey. He called you and said, Terry, we need you here at Motown, didn't he? He did that.
It was very close to what you're saying, yes. He was working at the Uptown Theater for Georgie Woods, and I had these songs, and I had a girl singer with me, and we were Terry and Terry. And I wanted him to hear these songs, and I didn't even know he was vice president of Motown at the time. And I asked him to, sitting with Motown, I got some songs. He said, well, let me hear them. So I played them for him, and he put his hand over his mouth, and just his eyes turned to icy blue. And he looked at me. He said, yeah, Buzz, I think I can get you to Motown. And before I knew it, he called
wow.
me. He said, Buzz, why don't you come to Detroit? I want to talk to you. He said, bring your guitar, bring your stuff. I want to talk to you. I went there and he sat me down and said, look, I like what you're doing with the singing thing, but There's a lot of competition here. He said, but I do have another offer to give you. He said, you can also be an artist, but I would like you to be part of my writing and producing team. He said, would you be interested in that? I said, of course I would. So that was the beginning of my Motown experience. We recorded songs on the Supremes, the Four Tops, Temptations, Edwin Starr, Martha and the Vandellas. I can't even think. Oh, the Spinners. So many different groups there.
Now, you mentioned the Uptown.
Yeah.
As a kid, I'd go to the Uptown and see the Motown Review for $5, and that show had everybody you just mentioned. Everybody. Marvin Gaye, you'd see, and Sam Reed was the band there. That was right. That was the day. So you played the Uptown.
Oh, many times. The Apollo was great. I mean, because that was like home. That was home for us also. So, we had so many people that would come to see us. But then I can remember the Apollo Theater, man. This was a hard-working job. I think we would do 5 to 6 shows a day, especially on the weekend. Like, there would be lines of people wrapped around the whole city block, like 2 or 3 times deep to get it. And as soon as we come off our show and the show closed, they say, half hour's already in, so we only had a half hour before the show would start again. But that was the good times. And Philadelphia had turned to be the same way. It wasn't 3 hours deep of people, but like it was always jam-packed, always a waiting line outside to get in for the next show.
You're in the Hall of Fame twice because the Flamingos were also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right. And then I only have ICU.
And I've only got a couple seconds left. I do want to touch on that you're out on your diamond anniversary with the Flamingos. You're touring the country, and I guess that begins in September. When you bought a Flamingos record, I'm talking to my audience now, when you bought a record by the Flamingos, this man is on it.
Right.
And you did much of the production. So they're going to hear this in your new shows.
Yes, indeed. I also want to say that I want everybody to know, and especially you to know, that we also given a lot of the proceeds that we received from our CD to the USO, because we believe, because the other 2 guys singing with me are veterans. And so, and I know about what veterans have gone through, losing limbs and all that stuff, and the only people that have stood behind them was the USO. So we give a great portion of our, what we receive to the USO to support them.
You're in the studio now.
Right.
Aren't you recording something new right now?
Yes. Well, that other CD was just to, get us out there and let people hear my sound and the way I'm projecting the Flamingo sound. But this new one is nothing but original songs. All originals that I've written, and my partner Teresa and Starling Newsom and other producers and writers from around the country. I'm gathering nothing but the best original songs and material to present to the public out there. And I know they'll like it because I'm not going to waste time doing anything. It's got to be spectacular.
And I can't wait to get it on the Mark Berman Show. I can't wait to blast it out there and get it to my listening audience, because you're phenomenal. You've done so much, and there's just so much to talk about. And a couple minutes here honestly doesn't do it justice. We could spend hours talking to you. This is Terry Buzzy Johnson from the Flamingos, from so much more. My final question is, how did you go from Isaiah to Terry?
Well, just don't laugh. But, it's a biblical name.
I'm going to laugh.
It's a biblical name.
Go ahead.
And I started a group, and I got some smart remarks from people saying, hey, man, why don't you call yourself Isaiah and the Prophets? So, they started making fun of my name, so I like the name Terry because of, certain movies and stuff I've seen. I like that name Terry, so I kind of adopted that name for myself.
I wish you only great things.
Oh, thank you.
This tour should only be, as Jerry Blavitt puts it, bombastic. I know it will be. You've got in fact, I think you're spending almost a month at a casino. I mean, I just looked at your schedule. It's phenomenal. The Flamingos are out on the road playing all these places. They're going to Philly. They're going to New York, and we hope to get them here in Atlantic City. Buzzy, I want to thank you for spending a few minutes on the Mark Berman Show. You're just amazing to talk to.
Well, thank you.